If you're not good at building relationships, you're going to leave a lot of deals on the table. Anybody can get deals. It's just about how good your deals are. And if you could do 10 less deals a year, but they were 50% better than the other deals, you'd be making a lot more money. And that's what I like to do less because I'm efficient, not because I'm lazy, and make more. My name is Jonathan Greene. I run a big on-market team. I've been investing for more than 30 years. One of my specialties is off-market acquisition, which includes a lot of the stuff that we'll talk about. I've done every type of investment there is in the business, from commercial, single families, short-term rentals, flips, hybrid properties, mixed use, anything out there over 30 years. Now I have a podcast called Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing, where obviously I interview investors. But my focus has always been on investing as a secondary income. I grew up as a cash investor, going to foreclosures with my dad from 5 years old on. So I probably walked more than 10,000 homes in my life. So that has helped me kind of understand the ins and outs of off-market acquisition and tenant management, which is a big part of off-market acquisition, tenant management, seller management. That's why we decided to do it this way, with micromanagement or micro marketing lists and approaches for seller dialogues that you can get that will close that are outside of the norm. I live in New Jersey. I've invested in New Jersey, New York in my life, Florida, California mainly, but now I'm investing in different asset classes and syndications as well.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jonathan, for that introduction. The topic for today is the importance of personalized marketing and smaller list building. So if you want to just kind of, give us a little background on how that's helped you. You've been doing it for 30 years, so you obviously know what you're doing. So yeah, if you can just, speak to that a little bit, how that's helped you in your business, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at modern marketing and what's out there, there's a lot of different options that can create, I guess, more replication of processes, but that's not really what's going to engage you with that sellers. The larger span marketing that you do, the worse appointments that you get. So to start to tailor your lists is actually the science that will get you better appointments, more efficiency. It's fine if you have a big budget, you can do what I call spray and pray, which is mail as many people as possible with kind of the similar message. But I can guarantee you, if you send 10 houses on the same block, the same message, only one of those people is really interested in what your traditional postcard said, which is, I will buy your house quick for cash.
Yeah, I think pretty much everyone on the call has wasted too much money on that. But they don't, I mean, I can speak for myself. I don't know any better on how to be more personal with my marketing. So what have you done that's worked really well for you?
Yeah, so we build micro lists, which is targeting exactly what we want instead of just anything. If you want a certain area and you want to be an effective investor, just saying that you want to get anything in this town is not an effective investment strategy. Your financing or the way that you're set up or your expertise may not be ready for mixed use properties that fall in the same zone. Or you may not want a 2-bedroom house. You may only want 3 bedrooms up, or you may want houses where you can add value so you can get a better flip value. So the problem is that when people geographically just do marketing, you're sending a bunch of postcards that are useless. They're not going to the right people, and the message isn't going to the right people. Just take the traditional cash. Almost every type of real estate production on the postcard end is built on, we will buy your house for cash. If you've been in enough doors with enough sellers, cash is not what buys homes. It's a vehicle, but they're fine with hard money. What a seller needs is for you to solve their problem. And the majority of the time, the problem isn't quick cash. Quick cash is for pre-foreclosures, foreclosures, money issues. So it definitely can work. That's a very small subset of what you're mailing if you're doing large scale mailing. You may send 1,000 mailers, maybe 100 people are interested in cash, maybe 10% will solve their problem. And even of those 10%, the majority of them have a secondary problem that you need to solve, which is why micro marketing is so important. So just take, for example, you're going to mail someone who wants cash, but they don't know where they're going to go. You're not buying the house. They have nowhere to live after this. So they're part of the reason why I'm licensed and I run a team that is investor friendly, is because if they need a place to go and they need someone to help them figure out because their heirs or their family isn't helpful, we can at least assist with that. The same reason as people are emotionally attached to a house. If someone's owned a house for 50 years, they've lived in it, their spouse passed away in it, the last message that's going to work with them is, I will buy your house quick for cash. So I set up, I have it's about 7 different letters. I'll go over a few of them today, but they're coined different ways. And that's how you micro market. You're going to build lists that are specific to the type of owners who might be more interested in a different type of offer. So if you're going to, let's just take,
Can you give me an example on like micro
yeah,
marketing? Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, so let's start with the concerned citizen letter. The concerned citizen letter. Does anyone walk or drive for dollars in their town? If you're on camera, just raise your hand. All right, perfect. Yeah, all right. Almost everybody. It's the most tried and true technique for real estate investors that have ever existed. And no matter what technology is out there, walking and driving for dollars is still the butter that's going to go on the bread, because you can actually see what the problems are. That's where you're figuring out which houses are viable. So the concerned citizen is set up for people who do not live in the house. Why? Because they're most likely to sell if you do your data research correctly, which I'll get to. So the concerned citizen letter, which I prefer letters over postcards just in general, because postcards, I don't look at them, I throw them all out. You know, they come in the middle of the grocery circulars. Letters are more likely to get open, and it's worth the extra spend. Even if you're using, you know, modified handwriting, it's still more likely to get read over time. So the concerned citizen letter goes something like this. Hey, again, remember, absentee owner, they could be in the same state, they could be far away. I'll tell you how to build the list that way. But it's, hey, Mr. Smith, I was walking by your house this day at 123 Main Street. I actually live in the neighborhood. I'm a local investor. I just wanted to let you know your house that you own here might not look as good as you think it does. And then you would include a picture. So this is why you would either download the picture of your phone, you're going to put it in a merge into the thing. You're going to take a picture and point out all the things that are wrong. I don't know if you know this, because I see that you live 2,300 miles away, but you have a hole in one window. Your roof is definitely leaking. You can see it on the side here. There's an enormous amount of mail here, so this could be vacant or your tenant's not paying attention. There's 2 cars with wheels off. You're identifying all the problems that they may or may not know about. And I can tell you, a 65 and up absentee owner does not know anything about their property and is probably not using property management. So that's just the start of the letter, and then you finish up. You know, I walk by this with my dog once a month or once a week. I'm happy to send you an update once a month by the same litter. Just let me know if you want that update. If you are ever looking to sell, I'd be interested, but I'll send you these updates either way. That's a different letter than what everyone's getting. All the other stuff in their inboxes, I will buy your house quick for cash. They're not even opening those. They live in California. They don't care. They think it's passive investing, except they're sinking money into something that could be making a whole lot more money. And when you point out that it's not doing as well as they think, and they're going to have repairs coming up because the roof is broken, that's when they're going to want to sell it.
Yeah, I have a question. This is
Yeah,
great, by the way. Like, I'm just thinking
thanks.
if I got that letter, I'd be like, yeah, like if you don't mind sending me an update, why not?
Exactly. You're looking for a
Yeah.
situation that someone can't say no to. It's a Hormozy
Yeah,
principle.
exactly.
That's
So
it.
my question is, let's say you're driving for dollars or, walking out the neighborhood taking pictures. Are you sending these letters each like custom personalized to with that? Or, like one house may have, holes in the roof, the other may have, the other situation with like a car parked in the garage with 2 wheels off. So are you like customizing each letter?
Yeah, so there's a general template, and then there's a part that you swap out. You know, you use the
Okay.
general language, I walk by your house at insert address, and then you leave the paragraph 2 is the direction on the house, and then paragraph 3 is exactly the same. So you're making an efficient bet, but the reason why it's so important that you build your list correctly. So how you build that list is you immediately start with absentee owners. And then I'll tell you how to scale that. But that can mean they just don't live in the residence. That's how the companies will identify absentee owner. That's great. But then if you really want to scale that, you want absentee owners who are 65 and up or 50 and up or have owned the place 10 or more years. You keep hedging to make a smaller list, and people make the mistake. Look, I mean, does anyone have like 10 grand a month to spend on mailing? If you do, spray and pray is fine, but I'd rather you not waste all the money. So in my opinion, if you honestly picked a block that you wanted a property on, a big block that had maybe say 100 houses, and you only mailed 10 of them for 6 months, that spend and likelihood of return would be 100 times better if you were sending the exact same message to everyone in the neighborhood. Because when you get that call on that message that's not even tailored to them, guess who else is getting the call? Every other wholesaler that you know. And when you show up on the appointment, it's going to be you and six other people without proof of funds in there. And it's not fun. So I don't do that. I don't go on multi appointments. I only show up if it's just me. And when you tailor your letters that are different, they're like, oh, I mean, they're opening them for a reason. When they open
Right.
one that sounds a little more personal, you're going to be there first and you'll be ahead of everybody else.
Yeah. So Gary has a question. Are you using a service for the letters or are you doing it
No,
in-house?
yeah, no. I mean, I like there's some of them out there. I don't want to, pub anyone's, but I don't personally use a service. We have somebody kind of do them. We have the template on the computer, and because we micro, we're just going to print them off. Someone's going to do it. When I say micro, I'm like mailing in batches of 10, which doesn't sound great to everyone until you do it and you actually get in the areas. The problem is everyone's too wide. I don't like going on. So look, I used to do macro marketing. I had a company that was mailing the ones that are like seventh notice, blah, blah, blah. It was total BS. But it worked. You get a lot of the calls. I have for David, I have a YouTube video on this. So if you go on my YouTube channel at Jonathan Greene RE and you just type in concerned citizen, the dialogue's in there. You can just pause it and pull it out of there because it's still a little bit different every time. But when I did those macro marketing, I would go on the appointments myself and then I would show up and it would be terrible. They'd want 250,000 more than it was worth. They were all unqualified because they will screw with you to answer your postcards when they live there. So you have to start to figure out who do you really want to deal with? Who is your best one-to-one connection going to be with? Absentee owners are great. The further away, the better. So there's very little that I do that's even remotely automated, almost nothing, because it doesn't make sense to me. The more you automate the process, it's okay if you have excess of money, but the more you automate and spend to send out soft messages is just wasting your money. You can do way better by tightening up exactly what you want. Because remember, you still have to mail 6 months for it to be effective. So a lot of people will say, I have 3,000 to market. They take the 3 GAN, they pick a wide thing and they send out the same letter to everyone and then say, oh crap, this doesn't work. I mean, no kidding. It takes six to
So
8 months for a mailer to work.
no, Jonathan, that's absolutely, I do agree with you. I mean, the letter that you talked about the concerned citizens, like if you sent it to me, I'd be like, yeah, sure, like please send me an update. And then when I'm ready to sell, like you would be the only person that I'm talking to. But let's say if I'm doing this out of state in a different market where I don't live, how would you go about doing this? Would you hire someone? And is this only possible like when you're driving for dollars, or could you do this like, buying a list from like David mentioned, like from PropStream or other data providers?
Yeah, so I'm always 100% honest, and that's why I can get to properties when I want to. I would tell them I'm an out-of-state investor. I have someone who walks the streets there. They sent me this picture. I just want to tell you I'm not unfamiliar with your area. This is what I know about it, blah, blah, blah. You're going to drop some data on the unique blocks. You can pull it off of city data. But every 99% of what off-market sellers get is complete BS. 98 to 90, I mean, probably almost all of the I will buy your house for cash don't even have cash. They're talking about hard money. So that's already your first lie. Almost everybody, if you go on a multi appointment and there's six of you in the room, and it's okay if some of you do this, I'm just giving you the advice that you will get further, but you will get direct to seller 100 times quicker if you just cut all the stuff out of the middle. A lot of people are experienced on the seller end. So when we build those micro lists, we're running those owners to see if they own other properties. The more properties, the better. But if you want to get the one property, the less properties, the better, and the further away, the better. So if you're ranking your list, which you should always be ranking who you want to get in contact the most, the farthest away on the absentee owner list is your number one. If they own one property in New Jersey where I am and they live in California, I will buy that house. There's no chance they want to keep it. Why would you want one property when you're 65 years old in New Jersey? If you find out, a family member is living there, great. But I guarantee you'll get on that call, especially when you tell them. See, one of the problems when we're talking about honesty is that no one will ever tell them how they got their information. And they're getting spammed with all of the information, 10 wholesalers sending them all the same message. I always tell them, listen, I'm really good at research. I went on the public portal. I looked up who you are. I know that you own 3 other properties. Are you interested in selling any of those in the future? Or can I go take pictures of those for you? I'm adding value to there. Does that mean you may have to do a little scout work? Yeah. No one else is going to do it. That's why, like Sherrod said, you will get the first call. You have to be willing to do something to get something, and it's not just money or cash that gets it done. There's a million stories. I mean, if you listen to podcasts, my podcast, Bigger Pockets, any podcast, you hear a million stories of people getting offers done when they weren't the highest bid, because that's where you make a one-to-one emotional connection, whereas that's not what these mailers are trying to do. But if you start to micro market and figure out what your message is to each person, you're going to do a lot better. I mean, how is Quick for Cash helping heirs where there's 3 heirs who all can't decide? Do you guys know the probate principle? It's not a thing it's not a real thing. Let me explain.
Mm.
Does anyone mail probate? Raise your hand or you can do the chat hand up thing too. All right, sweet. Uh, Gary, what's your probate message? Is it similar for all probate or for the other ones? What's your general probate message?
We changed that up, but it's definitely not the same as the other messages, 100%.
Yeah, awesome. So tell me on your experience, this is so my dad was an estate attorney. I'm an attorney also, so I have a little more background on this stuff. But whenever there's somebody dies, this is probably 75% of the time what happens. If there's 3 heirs, this is how it works. One heir is smart. They want to sell the thing right away, do nothing, get the cash, split it, all good. Heir number 2 thinks they can flip the property and they want to flip it themselves. And they actually might ask for your help. They want you to JV the deal and get more, but they don't understand what a crap hole it is. You know what heir number 3 wants to do? Live in it for free until they die. So if you have 3 heirs who can never agree, you don't even know if you're sending the message to the right person. There's multiple people involved in probate. That's why you have to be so careful about what you're messaging. And exactly what Gary said is right. You have to switch up the message, but there's always more people involved. And what do the kids want? The kids want the money, or the heirs want the money, but you'd be surprised. They all don't want the same thing. But if you're talking about what we're talking about and what Gary said too, remember that the majority of people are sending the same message to those people as to the concerned citizen and to the people who've lived in their house for 50 years. That doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense.
I'm guilty of doing that.
No, I mean, everybody is.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. Me, the way that I talk is to give you better solutions to be more efficient, spend less money, and make better connections. Because if you're at it long enough, all you need to do is make one connection and then you'll run them on the property record and you're like, oh my God, this guy, 72, sounds like he just woke up, owns 13 properties. But now you're looking at a portfolio deal because they like you. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of stories. I've won plenty of offers in my life, never the highest bidder because I'm a good negotiator, but I'm also nice. I don't put up with their, fake stuff, but if they're nice, I'm willing to help them. But I also tell them, listen, I'm an investor. If you want market price, again, I'm licensed. If you want market price, I'll list your property. But that's what you do when you get in the door. But do you really want market price? You have a hoarder's house. What does a hoarder's house want? Has anyone dealt with who's bought a hoarder's house on the call? Okay, Gary. Shrub, what was the worst thing about the hoarder's house? What do those people want when they own a hoarder's house?
I mean, in our case, they were just embarrassed for anyone to look at the house. For us, they just wanted
Exactly.
to get done with it. They didn't want the neighbors to know, what was inside the house.
Right. So they could never get market price because no one's going in there. It's embarrassing. Also, they're very hard to get out because guess what they want to do? They don't want you to junk haul all their stuff. They want to go through each thing one by one.
True.
But you know what you can do as an investor? You can wait them out. And each time you wait them out, you just drop the price more. I'm willing to wait. If you take 6 months to remove all your stuff, great. But listen, the market's changing. When we get to January, I'm going to go down, $5,000. You're trying to motivate them to move, but also be of help. Listen, you're not earning anything here. The roof holes are getting worse. They're going to mess up all the stuff that, of course, they don't need. You don't need the 600 magazine subscriptions for the last 30 years, but that's their thing. But you see, a regular message to them would never get through because quick for cash, they might call, but you'll go there and be like, oh my God, if you've never been to a real hoarder's house, you don't know what you're getting into until you have to climb to a top of a pile to get to another
Yeah.
room. And then the pile moves. And you're like, this is a little bit much for me. If that's not your bag, you don't want to market to those properties. And of course, you won't know that it's hoarders. You might if you're walking and driving for dollars. How do you know it's a hoarder's house from the outside? I know I'm like off topic, but they don't just hoard on the
Yeah.
inside. There's stuff all over the yard. Their collection is overflowing. So that's a great thing to do. It's why you can't discount your eyes and ears. But to Shrad's point, maybe you can't invest in your market. You live in LA or you live in New York City or something. You can still get eyes and ears on there and then use what a lot of people do is, Google Maps, which isn't always updated, but that'll help you get an idea of the blocks and what you're looking at. You're looking for dumps in the middle of nicer houses. I mean, that's like back to real estate 101, what my dad did. He just buy houses that look terrible and were in the middle of the nicer houses. That's your way. You walk the neighborhoods and look for one that's run down, run that. Even if you spent all of your time working on one absentee owner, you probably end up getting a closer shot on that than just sending out a bunch, 90% of letters that are going to the wrong people for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, there are a couple of questions.
Yeah.
One from Ivan. Are you putting your personal information, LLC
Yeah,
information?
always personal.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not scared of anything. I want to connect one-to-one. And if I'm doing the appointment, I'll show up. If I have an acquisitions manager, it'll say acquisitions manager is going to show up. They'll have a picture of them on there, or I'll text them a picture in advance. I'm not trying to hide behind anything. Not that an LLC is always hiding, it does protect you. But listen, Bob Smith, who's lived in their house 70 years, isn't selling to an LLC. They think you're a crook. That's not true, but that's what they think. They want to sell to you, the neighborhood investor who invests all over the town, or you're brand new. The best letter is from a brand new investor. Is anyone on the call who's never bought a property? If you haven't bought a property, you have letters to write. You know who wants to sell to someone who's never bought a property? That old person. Or someone who's like, I have enough properties, I don't need to sell this, but like, I wouldn't mind helping someone get their start. That's a win-win price. You'd be surprised. Investors are nice. I mean, I
Well,
know all my friends are investors.
what would you write in as a newbie investor? What would you write in the letter that would get someone's attention?
Yeah. All right. Good. I'm going to go for it. Yeah. Dear Mr. Smith, I live in your town in Bloomfield. I saw your house. This is whether it's occupied or not at 123 Main Street. I'm a local investor looking to make my first investment. Your house is exactly the type of house that I would want to buy, fix up, and potentially live in. Potentially is important. If you'd ever like to just have a conversation or if you need any help around there, just give me a call. I'll come over. I'd love to meet you one day. That's it. If you're writing that same letter to somebody who has like owns 15 properties, you use a different dialogue. Your dialogue is called the I want to be just like you letter. So if you're a brand new investor,
Nice.
no properties, and you want to write to someone who owns 15 local properties but lives out of state, your letter is this. Basically, I want to be just like you when I grow up. Doesn't matter how old you are. Hey, I'm a local investor just getting started. I haven't even bought my first property yet. I was running records and I went by 123 Main Street and then I ran your name in the public records. Why do you tell them this? Because they like people who do their due diligence. I saw that you own 13 other properties and I just wanted to know if there's any chance I could give you a call and get 5 minutes. I'd like to be like that one day and have as many properties as you have. What do investors like to talk about the most? Themselves. They'll call you back every single time. That's probably like a 75 to 80, 90% hit rate. It doesn't matter if you don't buy a property from them. You're going to build a relationship that will work. See, this is the micro part of marketing. Everyone wants to go macro because it's easy. You can pay a company, you can send 1,000 postcards. They can all say the same thing. You get a couple dings. Those are bad uses of your time. They really are. If you go on those appointments, they suck most of the time. But again, if you can spend it, the return is worth it. But most people I know who are starting out would rather not waste the money.
Yeah, Jonathan, I think what you mentioned, it's absolutely brilliant. Like with just like even sending a letter to an experienced investor and saying, hey, I want to be like you when I grow up. I think
Yeah.
that just like instantly you would get a call from that person,
Of
for no other reason, you
course.
would feel like, hey, I want to mentor this kid or, mentor this investor
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Exactly. It's not asking someone like, hey, can you get a cup of coffee? It's saying like, I really want to do that.
Yeah.
I've been looking for a year. The market's too hot. I can't find any properties. How did you get your 15? Do you have 15 minutes to chat about that? Any investor is going to call back. The older, the better. Because if they're old and lonely, they will talk and they will sell. And that's not you trying to put one over them. That's you helping them.
Right.
Old investors don't know what to do with their properties. Their kids are coming for the properties. They're all sniffing around trying to get them. They could make way more money if they sold them and so gave the money to the kids early. They just don't understand estate planning, and they probably think like all these kids want is their property. They don't come and help me. No one's shoveling my driveway. That's the emotional side of investing that's kind of lost in the modern marketing. You don't have to do all of the things that used to be done. Not that those things don't work, but you can be more efficient and you can do it without like an excess of AI or other technology that alleges to make it easier.
I have a question for my own investing business. So I live in San Diego area. I invest in Northwest Indiana, right outside of Chicago. I don't have anyone local there. We flip houses, but my project manager also lives in California. My acquisition lead manager is in Philippines. So if I wanted to make my marketing more personalized, how would you go about doing that? If I'm building lists or buying lists, is that possible to do that? I've
Yeah.
done, hundreds of deals at this point, so I cannot go on and say, hey, I'm just getting started. I'm not a
Yeah.
local investor. So how would you go about doing that, making it more personalized?
Yeah, I would say it that way too. I have done a lot of deals, but we're really focused on this community. We love this community. Here's my acquisitions manager, the one who lives there, whoever the boots on the ground is,
Right.
put them right next to you if you're using. I put my photo on them. I don't care. See, I'm not worried about people calling me and telling me to F off. That I mean, if you do this long enough, that's just like part of the business. I actually can turn those calls with my background into a warm call anytime. But so I would basically use the person, whoever's doing the appointments, if there's going to be an on-site appointment, which there should at some point, that's who's going to be on the message with me. Hey, they're local, but I'm really into this community. I own 13 other units, but I'm not a conglomerate. I'm not Open Door, or you just make fun of Zillow or something because they know Zillow. I'm not Zillow coming in to try to buy your house for cash and then resell it. Like, I like this area. I'm trying to buy houses to re-rent them later. Is that something that you might like to find a win-win solution for? So I love Chris Voss, who wrote Never Split the Difference, but I disagree with one thing that he said. He was on a podcast recently and he said, don't use the words win-win. I use the words win-win and fair and everything, but that's how I behave also. Those are the words that people respond to. He was saying that win-win sounds like a salesy. I don't think so, because that's what I'm trying to find. If you find the right deals, you want them to be happy. There's nothing worse than going to a closing and the seller's like cursing you out, because they found out about a wholesale fee or something else. It's great when when I buy and then I flip, most of those sellers are invited back to the flip open house. Some of them lose their mind because they feel like I could have done this, but like we invite them back to the open house as long as they're, not haven't been a problem, just to show them like, hey, your house is going to someone great. We did all the work. We're entitled to that, to the money that we made. That's just the way that it works. They made out okay. Okay, that's the win-win. I sell a
Right.
property to someone, they sell it and make money. Hey, we both won.
I have another question. If you found them on True People Search, would you
Yeah, I
call
see.
them with your personal number and making a personal contact?
Yeah, I mean, I only use my phone. So on market business, I use my CRM's text. I don't call anybody. I only text people. So I will never make a phone call ever. I don't make phone calls at all. I show up on the appointment. Someone else can make the phone calls, but I don't have time for people's BS on the phone. It takes too long for me. So someone maybe will get me on the phone. If they set up a phone call, then I'll go on. But yeah, everything to me is personal. You can always have double numbers and one that acts as a personal, but I want them to be accountable to me. In my opinion, I do not use blind texting. I may wait, we figure out a way either to say through the letter, text me back if you're interested. I try to get everybody on a text chain because it saves me 100 more hours a year than everyone else, if not way more. So anyone, of course, the older you get, you may have to do the call. I'm not great at that because I'm bored in 1 second on the phone. But if you're good on the phone, you can, but you may be on the phone 3 hours and then realize they want 200K more. So I try to get quickly with the text. If they're good at text, I can get in the door anytime, or port to email, whatever will make it go quicker. So I mean, at least if I'm looking at a few of the questions, a lot of it is like, the traditional strategy of kind of like, building a business, but people don't like to sell to businesses. I would never sell to Open Door. They can go jump in a lake. I don't care what they're offering me. They sound terrible. I don't want to sell to a hedge fund. I want to sell to a person. If you want to buy self-storage, hedge funds will come in and pay. Mom and pops, they'll take that money, but hedge funds don't want mom and pops. They want to sell to someone who appreciates what they have. That's why these letters are so important. So there's one other one that I'll go over also, which is specifically for the old people. So the old people, you're going to write what's called the caretaker letter. And it's helpful if you're being, pretty honest, but that's why you use possibly. So the caretaker letter is a letter to someone who's old, who still lives there. Again, remember, when you're writing, you don't know their status. You don't know when their spouse died unless you've done that research. And if so, you're not going to put that in there. But you don't know what the heir's status is. So you don't know how, if they have anywhere to go. But when you're doing if someone's lived in a home 50 years, like I said before, you're not buying it for cash. They could care less. They bought it for 30 grand. It's worth 500. What do they need cash for? Where are they going? They're going to a nursing home. Like, this is not an acceptable trade for them. So for the caretaker, it's, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I walk by your house at 123 Main Street all the time. I love the character at the home and the way that you've maintained it over the years. I actually did my research. I see you've lived there 50 years. That's amazing. What's changed in the neighborhood over that time? If you ever need anything, let me know. P.S. I am buying houses that have been lived in for a long time, and my goal is to take care of them and put forth what you did to the next buyers. And that does mean some renovation, something like that. This isn't obviously a perfect script, but that's the way it is. You know who caretakers want to sell to? The older people. They want to sell to people who aren't going to ruin their house. Maybe you're going to do it, but to me, I renovate houses that have character and I keep the character. I don't kill the character. So that works for me, but you'll be in the door with these letters. If you mess it up after that, that's on you. But these are realistic ways to get in the door and build relationships. And if you're not good at building relationships, you're going to leave a lot of deals on the table. Anybody can get deals. It's just about how good your deals are. And if you could do 10 less deals a year, but they were 50% better than the other deals, you'd be making a lot more money. And that's what I like to do less because I'm efficient, not because I'm lazy, and make more.
Yeah, that's what we talk about on these calls all the time, Jonathan. You bring up a great point. Would you rather have $1 million business but only keep 50,000 at the end of the year, or would you rather have $700,000, $800,000 business and have $350,000, $400,000 net profit at the end of the year? I mean, a lot of investors are just so focused on these vanity numbers. Hey, I want to do like 50 deals, make seven figure. But how does it matter if you're not keeping any money at the end of the day? If you have no idea where your cash is going, you're burning all of that on the marketing. So I 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a quick question. I know you mentioned a couple of times on that you focus on like older folks. How are you finding out the age of the homeowner? We've tried a couple of services before, but they haven't been, they don't give us complete information. They're not 100% accurate. How do you go about doing that?
I mean, look, with any skip tracing, you're just trying to get in the ballpark and hedge your bets for the best. So if you use one source, we usually just try to back it up with another source, something that's like a better version of Spokio that'll be a little bit closer. I'm not relying on the phone numbers from a source like Spokio. I am relying on who lives there and who has lived there. And then you can always search the obituaries. So as you can tell, I'm someone who do a lot more research because that's what you do with micro marketing. I'd much rather spend a little more time writing a better letter, because that will get a 20x potential response upgrade. That's where efficiency comes in. Because like you said, Sharad, vanity metrics are out there. Oh, I'm mailing 10,000 a month. I don't care how much you're mailing, how much you're making.
Yeah.
How many people are you helping? That's the point. If you're celebrating doors, the doors don't matter unless you know how much those doors are making you. Same thing like you said before. Would you rather have 100 doors that make $100 each, or 10 super doors that make 200,000? I mean, it's a no-brainer. Less doors is less work. So why would you want more doors to earn less? This is silly.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would much rather have a very, very efficient business and then keep majority of the money as net profit rather than have these vanity metrics that I'm, trying to use to impress someone, just saying, hey, I have a 7-figure business, but who gives a shit, if I'm not keeping anything at the end of the year.
Yeah, and also like, investors get too obsessed with distressed properties. Like if you're not good at renovation, if you're like a crappy renovator, don't buy distressed properties. You're not going to do the same amount that you think. Buy properties that are in good shape. You just have to pay more. But guess what? You don't have to do anything. It's not turnkey, but you can just turn it up. There's nothing better, than lipstick on a pig. That's the best house you can find. It's ugly. They have terrible taste. It needs paint and new carpet. Boom, boom. You're all done. And now you're renting it for $600 a month more than the person there because they just let it go to crap. You fix a couple little tiny mold issues and you're good to go. That's a much better buy than a lot of newer investors trying to take on a full reno project when they've never done one in a market where construction costs are high, contractors are unreliable, and you don't know what you're doing. Or you're going to try to DIY it without permits, and then you get caught, and then you have a year with a red card. Like these are just the things that seem good on YouTube, but aren't good in practice because what you're trying to do isn't the whole goal. Everybody says the goal is financial freedom, for real estate investing. It's not really that, it's time freedom. Financial freedom earns you time freedom to do what you want. But if you can create the time freedom before you get to financial freedom by being more efficient and not just trying to do the easy thing, which is press a button or pay one thing to just do it, and then responding to everybody who reaches out on that one message that's not even tailored for them, you're just making yourself a whole headache. It's why people go in to be, they're like, oh, I want to leave my 9 to 5 to be an investor. And then they realize, wait, now I'm working 80 hours a week in my investing business and I'm not making any money because it's not an efficient business.
Absolutely. Jonathan, another question for you. What's the biggest challenge you've noticed with, your personalized marketing? Not for you, or, I understand you have, other students that you coach. Like, what's the biggest challenge that you notice people run into with making their marketing more personalized?
What's the best way to describe this? Laziness. They don't want to do it because it takes more time. So they're going to keep choosing the choice that takes less time but costs more, because it's easier, because you think it's not going to matter. But I'm telling you that it matters because you can experiment with this on a small scale. You can drive for dollars, if you just walk for dollars in your neighborhood and pick 10 houses that are a little bit in the dilapidated state, just handwrite those letters, just 10 letters. Marketing only has to churn one deal, but you're trying to get better connections because they lead to other things. So I really think it's just lack of time, which leads to laziness or bad decisions, or trusting somebody to do your job for you. It's okay if you've built out a team and you have an acquisitions manager and you're training them correctly, but like you can't hire a company to just do your job. That's the whole point. No one really wants to sell to nobody or a faceless entity. That's where you know that they're going to chop you on price. You always want to be there to say like, hey, I'm me. I'm an investor. I will go back at people all the time when they tell me their price. I said, I'll show you the data. I'll bring the block shot. I have a program that'll show me the block shot of every home in their area. So I'll just say, you want 600? There's not even a home in this area that's worth 450. So where are you coming up with the 600 and how do you plan to get it? Your house isn't even in good shape, by the way. Like, where are you coming up with your numbers? And they're like, oh, well, my friend Carl told me I could get 600. Like, well, tell Carl to give you the 600 because here's the values. Good luck to you, but it's not going to happen. They'll always call back. If you fight back at them, tell them the truth, they'll call you back. That's why those FU calls, they usually end up calling me back because I just laugh. I said, what are you so mad about? Like, oh, you got my information, from somewhere. I said, it's public. I'm like, what do you think? I'm stealing information? It's out there. You can look me up. You want to look me up? I'll give you my name and, address. Look me up. It's the internet. I didn't create it. I'm just doing my due diligence. If you didn't want to sell the house, why'd you call me back? You just called me back just to tell me to screw off? That doesn't seem like a good use of your time. These are all techniques. Every call is a good call. Everyone who calls you to tell you they hate you is interested in the deal. I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they had enough motivation to pick up the phone and call or text you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just throw it in the garbage. I mean, come on.
Yeah, we've had people write letters back to us, just saying, like, arguing with us why they want to sell it. I'm like, you seriously have that much time?
Yeah.
You don't want to send, yeah.
That's the exact client that I'll spend more time on. I actually, and sometimes I think it's funny, or something's wrong. Like, are you okay? That's a
Yeah.
great response. Are you okay? You know, did I do something to offend you? I'm just running public records. Like, if you don't want it, just tell me never to mail you again. It's no problem. I'll never mail you again. But maybe you called back for a reason. You know, are you having a problem with your house that I might be able to help you solve? These are just techniques. But the
Yeah.
thing is, everybody wants the easy way out to go what you said. It's not like a failure. Sometimes it's just you don't have time or you're doing it on the side. But that's not going to win. You're just going to be spinning your wheels. And you still may make deals. I'm just saying you'll make better deals if you focus at least part of your business on more micro than macro, because macro is a waste of money. There's no question about it. You may make the returns, but you can make better returns in a different way.
All right, Ivan has a question.
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, look, having other people like calls like this, masterminds, that's what holds you accountable. Going to real estate meetups is the number one thing that I think will transition anybody from not doing business to doing business. If you find a local meetup, you put it on your calendar and you never miss it. And if you're somebody who's working from home, even if you have a family, you just need to block out a little bit of time each day to make sure that you never miss the same time. If you're calling, that's usually going to be early in the day. You want to bang out those calls early, make sure you've done it, and make sure you have something set up for response time. The biggest failure for people, just like Ivan, like you're saying, is they start to get some momentum, but they can't figure out the follow-up because they don't have the resources to hire more people to help. If you're an off-market advertiser or marketer and you're getting returns and you can't follow up the returns, you're just burning money. So before you go into it, you want to make sure that you have a system set up. Like, you want to know exactly, how does Resimply work? I want to make sure that I have this thing going so that when the response comes in, I know what the cadence is to response. That's why systems like this are so good. You know what the prompts are. You can set up the parameters so you can set up. And I don't mind a little bit of automation for people who are busy, but you're going to be much better if you're just available to take the calls. So time blocking is the most important thing. It's like the thing that controls my life. And people think that time blocking is like restrictive. It's the most freeing thing to look at your schedule every day and know, here's where I can move the blocks of time. I'm going to take this block where I was in a calls. My daughter's sick, so I'm going to move my call block to later in the day on my Google Calendar. Then I'm going to know, like, by then, my partner will be home, take care of the daughter. Then I can focus on this block. That's where it is. And it's also just being non-negotiable about those blocks. So if you have a busy family life or something, you just have to make sure that 1 hour is at least yours when you're getting started. So, and sometimes that's like, you have to wake up earlier, but you can't make calls at 5 a.m, but you just have to figure out how to do it. The best way to stay accountable is always to have other people who are doing the same thing around you. You hop on these calls, you're like, wait, all these people want to learn the same things. Whether you're going to take things that I say and put them right into practice, you still have ideas that you can use that 99% of the investors out there aren't using. And the thing you're looking for, Ivan, in your question is also a competitive advantage. Maybe it's not time, but maybe it's your knowledge of the neighborhood. That's why I love local investing. Like, you can't invest in San Diego. Like, that's crazy. My sister lives in Carlsbad. It's too expensive. It doesn't make sense at scale, but you can find other markets where you build that definitely can work.
Yeah, I live in Carlsbad also. And
Oh,
I
awesome.
save, yeah, I live up in Carlsbad actually. I
Are
saved
you there?
$50,000 when I bought my house just because of personalized marketing. I
Yeah.
made an offer and I was going to send a letter to everyone in the neighborhood that I wanted to be in with, with my name, my wife's kid's name. But we ended up finding a house listed on the market. And I actually sent the letter I was going to send to everyone in the neighborhood to the seller. And they ended up accepting our offer, 50,000 below other offers. So
Yeah.
100%, it worked for me. Personalized marketing 100% works. Yeah.
But it works for anything because it's
Yeah.
honest. Hey, I want to move into your neighborhood. Is
Yeah.
there any chance you or any of your neighbors are looking to sell? I'm willing to pay a premium, which is a premium off market. So you're going to save some stuff, like, to just get the job done. Ivan's got a question, and then I'll get to these last two.
Yeah, and I want to piggyback on what Jonathan said, like time blocking is extremely important. I own a tech company, but I still have this Nokia phone. I kid you not, for my time blocks. And when I do my time blocks, I send a Slack message to everyone on my team saying, hey, my regular phone is going to be switched off. If you really need to get hold of me for anything urgent, call me on my Nokia phone. I mean, they can only call. I don't text from this, no internet, nothing. And it's the best hour and a half that I spend every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. And just one little thing I wanted to ask, and I do actually practice that. I have a board
Sweet.
right there. I read a book called The One Thing,
Yeah.
and that helped me a lot.
It's a
But
great book.
yeah, I heard on a podcast, everybody has an unfair advantage: time, money, network, or a knowledge, right? And I believe I have the time and the money because I recently sold a business.
Yeah.
What do you think I should focus on to begin as a solopreneur? I'm cold calling, and I buy lists locally. What would be my next expense or my next investment?
Yeah. Well, how good have your cold calls been, and do you like it? Because most people don't like cold calling, including myself, who will not. I don't talk on the phone at all.
Yes, I don't like cold calling. I managed to do it, and I'm good at. I'm getting better at it. I actually hired a VA, somebody that does better than me.
There you
Um,
go. If you don't like it, then hire someone else to do it. It's a who, not how, principle. If you have the resources, and because, yeah, exactly. I mean, all their books are good. Gap and Gain is great. The new one, 10x is easier than 2x is great. You take all these knowledge. I mean, well, look at your one thing. If you could only choose one thing to do each day, cold calling is probably not going to be your number one. So if you have resources, you don't want to waste them because they are finite in advertising. You may get a return, but you may not. So you need to look at your own skill set and be honest with yourself. The reason why I think a majority of real estate investors fail is because of ego and lack of self-awareness. I know I won't talk on the phone. So why would I ever do anything that makes me talk on the phone? I don't want to do it. I'm bored and I will not be as effective. Even if I can hire someone to do what I do 80% as good as me, it means it frees up all the time to do something else. And right now, it's available. VAs can be great if you vet them. They can do a great job if you do it the right way and you train them. They can run your script. So I would start to figure out where's the stoppage in your pipeline. Are you getting enough appointments? If you're not getting enough appointments, then it's usually in the scripting or the list building. And then for anybody, I'm just saying, across the board, there's no better thing than in-person meetups. These are great, but you can't bump into someone and go see a house with anyone on this call unless you're near them. But like, we run meetups every single month on the dot, and I tell everyone, you just need to find one in your area, put it on your calendar and show up. Even if you have no idea what you're doing, if you keep showing up, Henry Washington, who I'm sure a lot of you guys know, he said on my podcast, he's like, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I would just show up for meetups every single time, every week. And at the end, they all thought I was doing business. And that's how he started doing business. He has hundreds and hundreds of properties now, but he just showed up. And that's what you're saying. We were asking in the chat. You have to show up to do work in the time frame, because you can't just say like, oh, my family can just handle themselves or my friends can handle themselves. Like, you're trying to build time freedom, which is life freedom. It's based on the money that you can earn that will free yourself. So you have to start treating yourself that way early, which is not doing the stuff that you suck at or that you really don't like doing, because someone else is happy to do it for less money and you'll get more effective. So look at yourself, try to figure out what's my favorite part of the business, and then you take your unique skill set, which we all have. Like you said, time is a resource. We all have the same amount. So for someone who says like, hey, I lost a job that I had, but I have some resources, or I don't have resources, like, you can go for somebody else. What investor is not going to want someone to run permits and stuff just so you can learn stuff on site? That's why you go to meetups. You just try to make connections and see who's there, and locally it can help. Or you go on these and you find, hey, we're both investing in Indiana. Wow, maybe we can start doing our marketing together and just kind of round robin the lead flow. Or you figure out how to do it. A lot of times the problem at your stage, Ivan, is the follow-up. It's like you can get the outtake, but then you're going to do something else, and then your follow-up's too slow. Because remember, these people will get postcards. They will have 4 or 5 people. I've been in houses with 6 or 7, 8 people, and I just leave every time, and I'm mad at myself. That's why I don't do the appointments. It's a waste of my time. I can make more money doing other things, and that's what you have to figure out. where am I going to make the most money and where's my skill set in this? Before you scale out a big team, you have to be a good part of that. Let me see
Yeah,
these.
even when I was living locally in the area, I would not miss any local RIA meeting. They were like I was in Chicago, so it was like 2 or 3 in our area. It was a big area. I would go to every single one. It was just amazing the relationship you would build. I found private money lenders. I found
Of
people that
course.
I looked up to, got inspiration. It was fantastic.
There's no quicker way to get into the business. The reason, so I learned this actually even more during the pandemic. So we had started meetups before, and then like the pandemic hit, and we were all like, "Oh, we have nothing to do." So we were doing 4 real estate investing meetups for different areas of the country. We had 2 New Jersey ones, a Philadelphia one, West Coast of Florida, and a Boston one weekly. During the pandemic, we were just doing it. Those people on those calls ended up doing about 100 deals just during that time, and almost all of them were new. And the thing that they said is, I just needed to see the other people who were doing deals who were just like me, and that's why,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's why masterminds and meetups are
Absolutely.
so great. Some of you guys, like Sherrod's done, 100 or more deals. Maybe there's some people on the call have done 1 deal. You can always learn something from where someone's at, and then when you're helping other people get the deals, you feel better, and then that's a win for you because you learn when you're teaching. These are the ways that business gets done, because where does analysis paralysis start? It starts from a lack of confidence. And a lack of confidence means you just press a button and send letters, but you don't actually really want anyone to respond because you don't even know what to do if they respond. But if you go to meetups, you generally start to get confidence because you're like, oh, wait, Bob and the Tivas over there? Yeah, that guy, he just looks like, is he even at the meetup? Yeah, he's at the meetup. He has 19 multifamilies. And you're like, what? That's what happens. Millionaire Next Door. Read that book. It's not who you think it is. We're not
No.
all pulling up in Lambos.
No, Jonathan, you're so right about that. I would go to these meetups and I would see these people totally unassuming, like dozens of units. I'm like, man, it inspires you, and it says, hey, if that person can do it, I can do it. You go talk to them, and they're so open to sharing what's working for them. They don't, they never felt like competitive about anything.
Yeah, but take exactly what we're saying now about meetups and then go back to what we were talking about. This is exactly what the micro marketing is about. It's, can you make a connection with someone so much that they're going to call you quicker than a letter? If people are contacting you, just take it this way. Let's just talk Facebook for a second. This will work. It's an example I use all the time. When it's somebody's birthday on Facebook, everyone just posts on your wall, happy birthday. And then you have the friends who just write HBD, and you're like, damn. Like that, you're down to that. Not only do you not want to send me a personal message, now you want to acronym and the actual words happy birthday. Like that's not as warm as something that's a little more personal. It's okay if part of it is customized and obviously, but the second that you involve something that is different, that is just for them, you will win. And I'm telling you, when you do your call follow-ups, I repeatedly get the same feedback. I will call people and I would never ask about their property after I had already contacted them. Maybe like once every 3 calls, I would talk about the property. I'd be like, how are you doing? How's your wife? What's going on? I'm like, all right, cool. I just wanted to check in and say, and they're like, oh, well, you didn't ask me if I want to sell my property. I'm like, well, no kidding. I thought we were friends now. I figured when you're ready to sell, you're going to call me, right? And he's like, ah, ha, ha, yeah, definitely. Great. Now all I have to do is call and do upkeep because you're building a relationship. It's just that people want to do this at scale, which makes sense. But most people who are trying to scale are trying to scale too early. You don't have the systems in place to do it. And then you overwhelm yourself and you go on appointments that you're not qualified for or don't even know what to do. What do you do when somebody says, well, I'd be willing to hold paper. Does anybody know what that means? If a
Um,
seller tells you they're willing to hold paper, does anyone know what that
but
means?
like seller financing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how old school people call it. But you would miss that. If no one knows that, you'll miss that. And that's like your biggest opportunity in the game is seller financing right now. Like it's great. It's an opportunity. I'm not like a sub 2 guy, but I like seller finance. But you have to know the terminology. And if you're around real estate meetups and you talk to some old schoolers, they will tell you exactly what that means. That's what we used to do it. And so just so you know my background, I know we still have some time left. I grew up going with my dad to yard sales every single weekend. And I was like, why the hell are we going to a yard sale? I have like 19 footballs in the back because all I was looking for was baseball cards and sports equipment. That's it. And I was like, why is my dad? He's always talking to everyone for so long of this stupid yard sales. My dad made an offer on every single house at every yard sale that we went to growing up. He would massage the people, talk to them. People knew him from in town. He was just a nice guy. He bought lots of houses just from yard sales. And all he did was build relationships. He would just talk to them and he would always follow up. He was just, that's the way that I learned how to do it. And that's how I learned to manage tenants, was doing that for him as well.
Yeah. 100 quality over quantity.
Always. I mean, that's
Yeah.
it. I mean, look, if you, has anyone read 100 Million Offers by Hormozy?
Yeah.
Even if you don't
Yeah.
like his personality, he's really smart. And if you can create a grand slam offer with 100 million offers, you'll win. It doesn't mean it's that you might be the best price, you might not. It's about what you can do to help them. You know, if you're not offering to junk haul a house for someone who's in probate, you know, Gary knows this. If you're in probate and the person died and the relatives don't care, they didn't even like the person, they're not going to junk haul the house. If you're a flipper and you're not junk hauling the house for them as part of your offer, like that's a big deal to people. It will get you to buy it for less money just because you see all this stuff that's here, all this stuff, leave it. You can go through it in the next week, take anything you want, anything you don't want, leave it. I don't care. I'll take care of it. But like once the weeks come, I'm going to throw it all out. So please tell me, sell some stuff. You could sell that. You start giving them tips. You could sell that on Facebook Marketplace. What do they say? I don't want to do that. That's too much work. All right. So in the next week, take anything you want. Usually they're just like, oh, you know, screw it. I don't want anything. But like people aren't thinking in advance that just the offer of cleaning out a house might save you $5,000 on that deal, especially for air.
Yeah, we've hired moving companies to help people
Yeah,
move.
exactly.
It's just such a simple thing. We made that part of our offer. We say, hey, we'll help you move. You don't have to pay movers.
Well,
We'll pay for them.
so that's your main win. If a absentee owner wants to sell and they have a tenant that doesn't want to leave, great. I have a license. You don't even need a license to help them find a rental. There's lots of Furbo rentals
Right.
for the owner. You help them find a place and then you help them move and then you buy the property. You just solve 10. You know how much money off you're going to get for doing that for them?
Yeah.
You probably get like at least a 10% haircut on that. It's a no-brainer. It's just that, like we said before, most people aren't willing to do that type of work because they're trying to scale to be something bigger, which generally is just going to be more headache. You know, you want to do more deals at lower margin, like we said, or less deals at higher margin. I would like the higher margin and less deals.
Absolutely.
For sure.
So let's just go. Do you have a staff or a VA that helps you with your research, specific roles and tasks?
Yeah, I did. I don't now because I'm not actively doing this. I mean, I do it when I want to pick it back up again. I live in New Jersey, so like basically all off market is just an absolute saucepan right now. Everybody thinks they can sell everything for $1 million. So it's like, again, it's a smart move to pull off the marketing in an area like this because I'm not getting anywhere. All the appointments will be terrible. They're not going to match my price. When I did, I had a very small staff. I would really just have a caller who would do outbound to or response calls because I don't like to talk on the phone. And then they would tell me what the number is. I would look at the number. If it was terrible, I would just tell them to call back and say their number's not close. And then if it was close, then I would have them set the appointment and I would text them and say like, hey, this is Jonathan, you know, is Tuesday at 2 still good? And then I would show up for the appointment. So I try to minimize my staff for the same reason. VAs are cheap. You know, for $5 to $7, you can hire them. It doesn't mean you're going to have a good workflow that way. You need to train the VA to do exactly what you want, use the scripts that you want the right way, or else you're just making their job harder. And then you're just going to keep firing VAs for not knowing what you wanted them to do because you didn't train them. So I would really, again, just like micro marketing, I would have a micro staff to start as well. Again, unless you have a giant budget, then you can build it out.
All right. What do you do with return mail? Do you have VAs who help you? I mean, yeah, do you do anything with the return mail?
Yeah, return mails will get sent to a VA to double skip trace and see if they can find a new ad. Return mail is actually a really good point and a good question. There's a lot of money in return mail, and a lot of it is the companies suck sometimes who are mailing. So a lot like when I was doing spray and pray, like there's no chance I was getting this much return mail. There was something wrong. So we would take those, send them to a VA. They would find the people in a second. There was a lot of those were actual return calls and just bad errors. Post office makes errors, not always correct. That's a really good question.
How do you make sure you're not going to multi-person appointments?
That's a really good question too. I ask, is anyone else going to be there when I get there? Is this a cattle call or am I coming by myself? If they lie, I immediately leave. But here's the one trick. you can only do this if you have your own cash. So this doesn't apply to everyone. And don't take offense if I use this against you, but this is exactly the dialogue that I use. When I go in and there's a cattle call, the first thing I say is, listen, did everyone tell you they were going to buy your house for cash? They always say yes. I said, go around and ask every single person in the room to open up their bank account and show them a proof of funds on their phone right now. And they'll say, why would they do that? No one's going to want to do that. I'm like, I'll show you right now. If someone has the money to buy your house cash, they'll be able to show you on their phone right now. That always will get them all out of the room. If you're doing it, it's okay. But I'm just saying I will use any technique to leverage myself over others. And that's the way that you need to do it. Because that's actually true. It's actually true. If you have a hard money, you can explain the hard money, but then you need to explain that hard money has an appraisal. You don't want to lie to the clients. You'll never build a business like that.
Ivan has a question. If you need a mentor, who would you recommend?
Find it at a meetup for sure. Not even online. It's got to be in person. If you go to the same meetup six times in a row, you'll find a mentor. Sometimes you find a mentor who's like at the same level as you. It doesn't always have to be somebody who's like done 100 deals. You may just be doing the same things and you end up kind of mentoring each other. And then you go on calls and learn from others who can upgrade you. But you really just need like one or two really good investor friends who like to do the same stuff as you, and hope one of them has a license so they can show you all the dumps on the MLS at any time. And then it's fun for all of you. Always be friends with an investor friendly real estate agent who's also investing, because they're going to go look at the dumps anyway. So why can't they just take you with them? And then you're friends. So you're not like, they don't feel like they're wasting their time on you.
All right. Would you take proof of funds letter from a hard money lender on the appointments?
So if I'm the seller, I know hard money. So I would call the hard money lender. I would look at the date when it was listed. It's usually like 6 to 8 months, 6 weeks old. So I'd be like, well, that's not valid. You need to recheck their rates. But if I know the hard money lender, I would give them a call. If I say, can I call them directly? And they say no, I'm throwing it in the garbage. It's not hard to make a hard money letter. I can tell you that. I could make my kids could make one when they were babies. So hard money is completely valid to me. Not a problem at all. It's just not cash. The only thing that's cash is cash. And the second is actually a HELOC, not a line of credit. Because a HELOC, you can just unload into your account and take, and you can use it however you like. Line of credit and hard money come with modified appraisals. They're easier, but there is a gatekeeper. So that's not cash. And that's where I think if you explain to someone how you're using hard money and you have to pay 13% to get this, they're going to be like, wow, that's impressive. You're willing to go up 13% just to get this property? Yeah. I'm telling you, honesty is going to win every time. These people have heard every snow job in the book, especially if that property's been around and you're on a cattle call. They've heard it. They will like to play games sometime. The first person who's honest with them is the person who's going to get to the next step.
All right, last question. What tool do you use to re-skip trace the return mail letters?
Now I use the integration on Deal Machine just because they have skip tracing built into it. We used to use batch skip. Isn't Yeah, batch skip. Okay. Yeah, they were low cost. Remember, skip tracing's still only like 50% reliable. So I like to use as many different sources as I can, just kind of like playing around to see if I can find anything. Again, I'll do more research on something small than anybody else, but I'll have a much higher likelihood. If that's a property I want to get it. You don't just want any property. That doesn't work. That's why walking and driving for dollars is so important. If you pick out the 10 that are like, wow, that looks like some scale there. Sure, if the seller tells you they want 200,000 more than it's worth, you just put it to the bottom of the barrel. But you don't have to want every property to be a good investor, because that's just going to lose you money.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jonathan. This has been absolutely fire call. Like, so much information you shared, like tons and tons of information. So yeah, really, really good call. Thank you so much for being on the call.
I just that's my Instagram. I do a lot on there. It's obviously there's no pitches. I'm just there, but that's a lot of random information there. I just put it up there. It's Trust Greene with me at the end. And my my YouTube channel, which has about at least 100 videos for investors, including 2 or 3 of these postcard videos, is Jonathan Greene with an E-R-E. Well, if you missed the majority of this call, Sharad and I are about to record for the podcast after this. So we probably won't regurgitate the same things, but whenever that comes out, we'll probably drop some of the same.
And then we'll record all the calls, and this is also streaming live on our Facebook group, so that I'm going to put a link to right here. So you can just go catch the recording. It was absolutely amazing call.
Yeah, I
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Jonathan. Thank you, everyone,
you.
for being on the call. Yeah. And Kevin has a question. How do I get on your podcast, Jonathan?
You
Reach
can
out to
send
you?
that, yeah, you can just send me a DM, and then for anybody who's sending them, they'll have to send a one sheet and qualifications and then we research and run them. We've had every big name in the business on, like everyone for Bigger Pockets all the way up. So yeah, if you give a listen to the podcast, it's called Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. It's non-BS, no pitch, direct to investor stuff, which is fun. And I have a good time with it. So you'll be able to find details to get through there, but it's about the mindful approach to real estate investing, which if you guys have just spent this last hour and 8 minutes with me, you know is very important to me. I'm trying to build a life that I'm good with. I have, but I'm always trying to make it more efficient, and trying to do these things a better way can only scale up your business because you're saving yourself time to spend with your family and friends. Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. It's on every platform. We're at we just published episode 120 comes out on Thursday, so we're pretty far along. Yeah, and that's my hub site, trustgreene.com. If you go there, you'll be able to get to the podcast, and anything that I do is on that site as well. Yeah, and if you DM me, I'll respond to the DMs much easier. As you know, I don't answer my phone, so.
Cool. Yeah, and I put a hyperlink to his
Yeah,
website also. If
appreciate
you want to
it.
grab that.
Yep,
Cool.
there you go. That's all the stuff.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks,
Fantastic,
guys.
fantastic call.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a
If
great
you
day.
joined in late, definitely catch the recording. There was tons of really awesome information on this call. Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.